They say love is unconditional, but for Liam, Preston, love had a price tag. On the night of their 5th wedding anniversary, Charlotte sat across from her husband with a secret that would change their lives. She was finally pregnant. But before she could whisper the good news, Liam handed her an envelope. It wasn't a trip to Paris. It was divorce papers. He told her she was too plain, too poor, and too boring for his new billionaire lifestyle. He kicked her out into the rain, thinking he had won. He didn't know that the poor woman he just discarded was actually the only daughter of the man who owned half of Wall Street. And Daddy is not happy. The crystal chandelier at Le Voir Manhattan's most exclusive French restaurant cast a fractured light over Table 9. It was the kind of place where a salad cost more than a car payment. The air smelled of truffles and old money, and silence was a currency. Charlotte Bennett, known simply as Charlie, to her husband fidgeted with the hem of her emerald dress. It was an off-the-rack piece she had bought 3 years ago, but she had steamed it carefully for tonight. She pressed her hand against her flat stomach, feeling the warmth of the secret she was guarding. 2 months. She was 2 months along. After 3 years of negative tests and silent tears, it had finally happened. She looked across the table at Liam Preston. 5 years ago, Liam was a desperate coder working out of a garage in Queens, surviving on instant noodles and Charlotte's salary as a librarian. Now he was the CEO of Preston Dynamics, the hottest AI tech firm in the city, recently valued at $400 million. He wore a bespoke suit that cost more than Charlotte's first car. But his eyes were different. They used to look at her with adoration. Now they were glued to his phone screen, reflecting the blue light of email notifications. "Liam," Charlotte whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Happy anniversary." Liam didn't look up. He scrolled, typed a quick reply, and then sighed, placing the phone face down. The noise was heavy like a judge's gavel. "Right. Happy anniversary, Charlie." He didn't reach for her hand. He reached into his jacket pocket. Charlotte's heart fluttered. A gift. She hadn't expected anything big, but maybe a card, a letter, a promise that he would be home for dinner more than once a month. He slid a thick manila envelope across the pristine white tablecloth. It stopped just inches from her wine-glass water for her tonight. "What is this?" she asked, a smile trembling on her lips. "Tickets." "Are we finally going to Italy?" Liam took a sip of his scotch, his jaw tight. "Open it." Charlotte's fingers shook as she undid the clasp. She pulled out the documents. The bold black letters at the top screamed at her louder than any shout. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The hum of the restaurant faded into a high-pitched ring in her ears. "Is this a joke?" Charlotte choked out. "Liam, we're celebrating 5 years." "We're marking 5 years, Charlie. We're not celebrating," Liam said, his voice terrifyingly calm. It was his boardroom voice, cold, transactional. "Look, I'll make this simple. I've outgrown this. I've outgrown us. Outgrown." Tears welled in her eyes, blurring the sight of the man she had supported when no one else believed in him. "I'm your wife. I'm not a suit you rented for prom." Liam leaned forward, lowering his voice, but the cruelty was sharper for its quietness. "Be realistic. Look at me. I'm on the cover of Forbes. I'm meeting with senators and tech giants. And then look at you." He gestured vaguely at her dress, her hair, her lack of jewelry. "You're a librarian, Charlie. You're sweet, you're simple, but you don't fit in my world anymore. I need a partner who understands equity optics and power. You barely understand how to use an iPhone." "I supported you," Charlotte hissed, ignoring the stares from the nearby tables. "I paid the rent when you were broke. I bought the servers for your first prototype. And I'm paying you back," Liam said, tapping the papers. "Check the settlement. The condo in Jersey, the Honda, and $200,000 in cash. It's generous. Most guys in my position would leave you with nothing." Charlotte felt a wave of nausea. It wasn't just the morning sickness. It was the realization that the man she loved was dead. He had been replaced by this monster in a silk tie. She thought of the baby. Tell him, a voice in her head screamed. Tell him about the child. He won't leave his own child. She opened her mouth. "Liam, there's something you need to know. If this is about your mother's medical bills, I already added a stipend for that." He cut her off, checking his watch. "Look, I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Sign the papers, Charlie. Don't make this ugly. I have lawyers who are much meaner than I am." He stood up. He actually stood up to leave her there alone on their anniversary. "Is there someone else?" Charlotte asked, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Liam paused. He adjusted his cufflinks. Sophia Kincaid. She's the daughter of the Kincaid Energy Group. She gets it, Charlie. She gets me." Sophia. The woman Liam had hired as a consultant 6 months ago. Stunning, sharp, and ruthless. Charlotte slowly closed her mouth. She placed her hand over her stomach again. If she told him now, he would think she was using the baby as a trap. Or worse, he would try to take the baby away from her to raise it with Sophia. She wouldn't let that happen. Charlotte stood up. She didn't scream. She didn't throw the wine. She simply picked up the envelope. "You're right, Liam," she said, softly. Her voice was different now. The tremble was gone. "I don't fit in your world, and I thank God for that." Liam looked at her, confused by her sudden composure. "Good. I'll have my assistant send a car for your things tomorrow." "Don't bother," Charlotte said, turning her back on him. "I won't be there." She walked out of the restaurant, her head high, while Liam watched her go, feeling a strange, cold shiver run down his spine. He shook it off. He was a multi-millionaire. He didn't have time for shivers. The rain in New York didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime slicker. Charlotte stood under the awning of Lavoie, clutching the envelope to her chest to keep it dry. She watched as Liam's sleek black Maybach pulled up. He didn't even look out the window as the car sped away, heading toward the Upper East Side, towards Sophia. Charlotte took a deep breath. She reached into her purse and pulled out a burner phone. It was an old flip phone she kept for emergencies. She dialed a number she hadn't called in 5 years. 1 ring. 2 rings. "Yes." The voice on the other end was deep gravelly and commanded instant respect. "Dad," Charlotte whispered. "It's me. It's Lottie." There was a silence on the line that felt heavier than the storm. "Lottie." The voice softened, cracking with emotion. 5 years. You haven't called in 5 years. Are you okay? Where are you? I'm done, Dad. You were right. You were right about him. About everything." A sob finally broke through her throat. "He left me. On our anniversary." "Stay right there." The voice turned into steel. "I have your location. Bennett 1 is 5 minutes away." "Dad, I don't want to make a scene." "You are a Bennett. You are the scene. Wait for the car." 5 minutes later, A Rolls-Royce Phantom, the color of midnight, pulled up to the curb. A chauffeur in a grey uniform stepped out with an umbrella, shielding Charlotte as if she were the Queen of England. "Miss Bennet," the driver said, bowing his head. "Your father is waiting at the estate." As Charlotte sank into the heated leather seats, the facade of the poor librarian melted away. Charlotte Bennet was not poor. She was the sole heiress to Arthur Bennet, the CEO of Bennet Global, a private equity conglomerate that owned half the skyline of Chicago and a third of the New York's shipping ports. She had run away 5 years ago, rejecting her inheritance to find true love and live a normal life. She wanted to be loved for who she was, not for her father's billions. And for that naive dream, she had paid the ultimate price. The car drove not to a hotel but to a private airfield in Teterboro, New Jersey. A Gulfstream G650 was waiting, engines running. Inside the cabin, sitting in a leather armchair with a glass of whiskey, was Arthur Bennet. He was 65, with silver hair and eyes that could freeze water. When he saw Charlotte, he set the glass down and stood up. He didn't say a word about her wet clothes or her red eyes. He just opened his arms. Charlotte collapsed into her father's embrace, weeping uncontrollably. "I'm pregnant, Dad," she sobbed into his expensive suit. "He left me and I'm pregnant." Arthur Bennet's arms tightened around his daughter. He looked out the window at the rain-streaked runway. His expression shifted from concern to a cold, predatory rage. "He left my pregnant daughter," Arthur asked, his voice low and dangerous. "He said I was too poor. He said I didn't understand power." Charlotte cried. "He's seeing Sophia Kincaid." "Kincaid." Arthur let out a dry, humorless chuckle. "Robert Kincaid's girl. They sell natural gas. Cute." Arthur guided Charlotte to a seat and covered her with a cashmere blanket. He sat across from her and picked up a heavy, secure satellite phone. "Dad, what are you going to do?" Charlotte wiped her eyes. "He wants to play the big businessman, Lottie. He wants to talk about equity and power," Arthur said, dialing a number. "So I'm going to give him a lesson, a masterclass." "Get me the acquisition team," Arthur barked into the phone. "Wake them up. I don't care if it's midnight. I want a complete dossier on Preston Dynamics on my desk in 1 hour. Their debt-to-equity ratio, their shareholders, their pending loans, everything." He paused, listening to the person on the other end. "Yes, I know they aren't for sale," Arthur said, his eyes narrowing. "That's why I'm going to buy the bank that holds their loans. We're not just buying his company, gentlemen. We're going to swallow it whole. I want Liam Preston to wake up tomorrow, owning nothing but the suit on his back." He hung up and looked at his daughter. "Rest, Lottie. By the time you wake up, the world will be a very different place for Mr. Preston." The morning sun hit the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sophia Kincaid's penthouse, blinding Liam as he woke up. He stretched, feeling the expensive Egyptian cotton sheets. For the first time in years, he felt unburdened. No boring wife waiting at home with leftovers. No guilt. Just success. He checked his phone. He expected missed calls from Charlotte, begging, crying, asking him to reconsider. There were none. "Good," he muttered, swinging his legs out of bed. She finally got the hint. He showered, dressed in a fresh navy suit, and joined Sophia in the kitchen. She was already on a conference call, looking sharp in a pencil skirt and holding a double espresso. She blew him a kiss as he grabbed a bagel. This was the power couple dynamic he had craved. Efficient, unemotional, high status. "I've got to head in," Liam said as she hung up. "Big day. We're finalizing the merger with the Tokyo partners. Go get them Tiger, Sophia smirked. Dinner at Nobu later, my treat, to celebrate your freedom. Absolutely. Liam whistled as he walked into the lobby of Preston Dynamics. He nodded at the receptionist, expecting the usual beaming smile. Instead, she looked pale. She was on the phone, whispering frantically. When she saw him, she slammed the phone down. Mr. Preston, she stammered. Jerry is looking for you. He's in a panic. Jerry, Liam frowned. Jerry was his CFO. The man had ice water in his veins. He never panicked. Tell him to wait in my office. He's already there, sir. With the others. What others? Liam took the elevator to the 40th floor. The doors slid open, and the silence hit him instantly. Usually the floor buzzed with coders and sales reps. Today, everyone was standing in clusters, whispering. They looked at him like he was a ghost. Liam marched to his corner office and threw the door open. Jerry, what the hell is going? He stopped. Jerry wasn't alone. Sitting in the leather chairs, usually reserved for high-end clients, were 3 men in identical charcoal suits. They didn't look like tech investors. They looked like sharks in human skin. And sitting behind Liam's desk, his custom mahogany desk, was a man Liam didn't recognize. He was bald with a thick neck and a scar running through his eyebrow. He was spinning Liam's Newton's cradle, click, clack, click, clack. Who are you? Liam demanded, his face flushing with anger. Get out of my chair. Jerry stepped forward, sweating profusely. He looked like he was about to vomit. Liam, please, calm down. Calm down. Who are these people, Jerry? This is Mr. Hale, Jerry said, pointing to the man behind the desk. He represents Titan Holdings. I don't care if he represents the Pope, Liam snapped. Security. Security works for us now. Mr. Preston, Mr. Hale said. His voice was deep scratching like sandpaper. He didn't stand up. He didn't stop playing with the Newton's cradle. What are you talking about? Liam laughed nervously. I own 51% of this company. I am the majority shareholder. You were the majority shareholder, Hale corrected. He picked up a document from the desk and slid it forward. Do you recognize this? Liam squinted at the paper. That's our loan agreement with First NY Commercial Bank. We took out a $50 million line of credit to expand the servers. So what? We're current on payments. Standard Clause 14B, Hale recited from memory, not looking at the paper. The change of control and risk assessment clause. If the lending institution believes the company's leadership has become unstable, or if the debt is sold to a third party, the full amount becomes due immediately. Liam felt a cold drop of sweat slide down his back. The debt is sold. First NY wouldn't sell our debt. We're their star client. First NY Commercial doesn't exist anymore. Hale smiled a cold, predatory baring of teeth. As of 4:00 a.m. this morning, Bennett Global acquired First NY Commercial. We bought the bank, Mr. Preston, which means we own your debt. Bennett Global. Liam racked his brain. He knew the name. It was old money. Serious money. But why would they care about a mid-sized AI firm? We are calling in the loan, Hale said flatly. $50 million, plus interest, payable immediately. I don't have $50 million in cash, Liam stammered. It's tied up in asset stock. We know, Hale said, which triggers a default, and under the terms of your default ownership of all collateral, which includes your intellectual property, your servers and your 51% stock options, reverts to the creditor. Hale finally stood up. He was massive, towering over Liam. Congratulations, Mr. Preston. Bennett Global is now the owner of Preston Dynamics. The room spun. Liam grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. This wasn't possible. Hostile takeovers took months. They involved lawyers, regulators, SEC filings. This had happened in hours. "This is illegal," Liam sputtered. "I'll sue. I'll call my lawyers." "You can try," Hale said, walking around the desk. "But you used company funds to pay your retainer fees. Since we froze all company accounts at 8:00 a.m., you currently don't have a lawyer, or a corporate card, or a car, actually. The lease on the Maybach is in the company's name." Jerry, the CFO, looked at the floor. "I'm sorry, Liam. They gave me an option. Cooperate or go to prison for that creative accounting you had me do in Q3. Liam looked at his friend, betrayed. "You sold me out." "I have kids, Liam," Jerry whispered. "Get out," Hale commanded. He wasn't talking to Liam. He was talking to Jerry and the other suits. "Everyone out. I want a moment with the former CEO." The room cleared instantly. Liam was left alone with Hale, the man who had stolen his life in 10 minutes. "Why?" Liam asked, his voice shaking. "Why Bennett Global? I've never met Arthur Bennett. I've never done business with him. Why is he targeting me?" Hale walked over to the window, looking out at the city. Charlotte had walked through in the rain, just the night before. "Mr. Bennett is a man of particular principles," Hale said. "He values loyalty, he values family, and he despises men who throw away valuable things because they think they found something shinier." Liam frowned. "Is this about the environmental regulations? Because I can fix the carbon footprint of the servers." Hale laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "You think this is about business? You tech boys are all the same. You think the world is just ones and zeros." Hale turned back to Liam. "Mr. Bennett is coming here. Today. He wants to inspect his new acquisition personally, and he wants to handle your termination face to face." "Termination." Liam straightened his tie, trying to regain a shred of dignity. "You can't fire me. I am the face of this company. The code is in my head. If I leave, the AI fails. The clients will walk." "The clients are already reassured," Hale said. "And as for the code, we had your team push a commit to the repository an hour ago. We have the source code. You are redundant." Liam's phone buzzed. It was Sophia. "Liam, why is my credit card declined?" "I'm at Nobu trying to book the table. They said the card is frozen." Liam felt the blood drain from his face. He had given Sophia a supplementary card on his business account. "You froze my personal assets too." Liam gasped. "We froze the assets tied to the fraud investigation," Hale said casually. "Fraud? When you use company funds to pay for... Let's see." Hale picked up a file. "A penthouse deposit for a Miss Kincaid diamond earrings. That's embezzlement, Liam. We could call the FBI, but Mr. Bennett wants to talk first." The double doors opened. The air in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Arthur Bennett walked in. He didn't look like the photos in the magazines. In person, he was terrifying. He wore a black wool coat and carried a silver-tipped cane, though he didn't seem to need it. He walked with the heavy, inevitable momentum of a freight train. He stopped in the center of the room and looked at Liam. He didn't say a word. He just stared, his blue eyes analyzing Liam like a bug under a microscope. Liam swallowed hard. He had faced angry investors, hostile reporters, and screaming competitors, but he had never felt fear like this. "Mr. Bennett," Liam said, extending a hand, "I'm sure we can work this out. I'm a reasonable man." Arthur looked at the hand, then up at Liam's face. He didn't shake it. "You're a fool," Arthur said. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the room. "You built a castle on sand, Mr. Preston, and you didn't even realize the tide was coming in." "I built this company from nothing," Liam defended himself. "You built it on support," Arthur corrected, "on sacrifices made by others, and when you got to the top, you kicked the ladder away." Arthur walked slowly to the desk, Liam's desk, and picked up the framed photo Liam had forgotten to remove. It was an old photo from 5 years ago. Liam and Charlotte eating pizza on the floor of their first empty apartment. Liam looked happy. Charlotte looked adoring. Arthur stared at the photo of his daughter. His jaw tightened. "You know," Arthur said, tracing the frame, "I had a daughter, a sweet girl. She wanted to make it on her own, refused my money, said she wanted to find a man who loved her, for her not her last name." Liam blinked. I don't see what that has to do with me." Arthur turned the photo frame face down on the desk with a sharp crack. "No," Arthur whispered. "You wouldn't." He turned to Hale. "Is the security team ready?" "Yes, sir." Hale nodded. "Good." Arthur looked at Liam. "You have 5 minutes to collect your personal effects. A box has been provided. If you touch a computer, you will be arrested. If you speak to an employee, you will be arrested. If you are still in this building in 6 minutes, you will be thrown out." "You can't do this," Liam screamed, his composure finally shattering. "Do you know who I am? I'm Liam Preston." Arthur stepped in close. He smelled of cigars and rain. "You are nobody, Liam. You are a man with no wife, no child, no company, and as of this morning, no future." Arthur leaned in his voice, dropping to a lethal whisper. "And if you ever come near Charlotte Bennett again, I will spend the rest of my fortune making sure you never see the sun shine from outside a prison cell." Liam froze. The name hung in the air. Charlotte Bennett. Charlie. His Charlie Bennett. He looked at Arthur. He looked at the silver hair, the piercing blue eyes. He saw the resemblance instantly. It had been there the whole time, hidden behind glasses and cheap cardigans. "Charlie is," Liam gasped. "She was your wife," Arthur said, turning his back. "Now she's my heir. Get him out of my sight." The cardboard box was wet at the bottom. Liam stood on the sidewalk outside the glass tower of Preston Dynamics, the building he had designed, holding a box containing a stapler, a stress ball, and a dead potted plant. Passers-by didn't look at him. To them, he was just another suit having a bad day. They didn't know he had been worth $400 million at breakfast and was worth -$50 million by lunch. "It's fine," Liam muttered to himself, his eyes darting around manically. "It's just a setback, a hostile takeover. I can pivot. I have Sophia." He hailed a taxi. His Uber account was linked to the corporate card, which was frozen. He had to dig into his pocket for a crumpled $20 bill he found in his jacket. "Upper East Side, Kincaid Penthouse," he barked at the driver. Sophia was his ace in the hole. Her father, Robert Kincaid, was an energy tycoon, not as big as Bennett, but big enough to fight back. If Liam married Sophia, he would have access to the Kincaid war chest. They could sue Bennett Global. They could start a new rival AI firm. He arrived at Sophia's building, rushing past the doorman, who gave him a suspicious look. He jammed his finger into the elevator button. When he burst into the penthouse, the air was tense. Sophia was pacing the living room, her phone pressed to her ear. She was speaking in rapid-fire French. She stopped when she saw Liam. She didn't smile. She didn't rush to hug him. She looked at the cardboard box in his hands with a mixture of pity and disgust. "I have to go," she said into the phone and hung up. "Sophia, thank God," Liam said, dropping the box on a white velvet sofa. "You won't believe what happened. That lunatic Arthur Bennett, he bought the bank. He seized the company. It's a nightmare." Sophia crossed her arms. "I know. It's all over Bloomberg. Tech darling Liam Preston ousted in Bennett Blitzkrieg. They're calling it the Red Wedding of the tech world. It's illegal." Liam paced the room. "We need to call your father. If Robert puts up the capital, we can file an injunction. We can freeze the acquisition." Sophia stayed exactly where she was. "My father knows Liam. That was him on the phone." "And is he sending the lawyers?" "He's sending a moving crew," Sophia said coldly. Liam froze. "What?" "Liam, look at the situation." Sophia sighed as if explaining a simple math problem to a child. "Your toxic assets now. Bennett Global isn't just a company. It's an empire. Arthur Bennett destroys people who cross him. If my father helps you, Bennett will come for Kincaid Energy next. He'll sanction our pipelines. He'll buy our debt." "What, you're scared of him?" Liam asked, incredulous. "I thought we were a power couple. You said I was a visionary." "You were a visionary when you had equity," Sophia corrected him. She walked over to the counter and poured herself a glass of water, not offering him one. "Now you're a liability. I can't be seen with a man who is being investigated for embezzlement." "That embezzlement was for you," Liam screamed. "The jewelry. The apartment deposit, I spent that money on us. I never asked you to steal." Sophia shrugged her voice, devoid of emotion. "I assumed you could afford it. Clearly, I didn't do enough due diligence on your portfolio." "Due diligence?" Liam felt like he had been punched in the gut. He recognized the tone. It was the same tone he had used on Charlotte at the restaurant. Cold, transactional, heartless. "I left my wife for you," Liam whispered. "I left Charlie. She was pregnant, Sophia. I didn't know, but she was pregnant. And I left her for you." Sophia's eyes widened slightly, but not with sympathy. "She's a Bennett. The ex-wife is a Bennett." "Yes," Sophia let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Wow, you really blew it, didn't you? You had the golden goose sitting at your dinner table for 5 years, and you traded her for a consultant fee." She walked to the door and opened it. "You need to leave Liam." "Sophia, I have nowhere to go. They froze my accounts. They took my apartment." "Not my problem," she said, checking her nails. "Security is on the way up. I'd hate for you to be dragged out in front of the neighbors. It's bad for property values." Liam stared at her. The beautiful, sharp, sophisticated woman he thought was his equal. She was exactly like him. And that was the worst punishment of all. He picked up his wet cardboard box. "You deserve everything that's coming to you." Liam spat. "Maybe." Sophia smiled, closing the door in his face. "But at least I still have a roof over my head." 3 months had passed. New York City moved on quickly. Preston Dynamics had been rebranded as Bennett Tech. The stock price had tripled since the takeover. The world had forgotten Liam Preston. Liam had not forgotten. He was living in a motel in Yonkers, paying cash he earned from doing freelance IT repair work under a fake name. He had sold his watches. He had sold his designer suits, He wore jeans and a hoodie now. He looked 10 years older. But he had a plan. He had been tracking the news. Tonight was the Bennett Foundation Gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was the social event of the season, and the press release stated that Arthur Bennett would be introducing the new executive director of the foundation, his daughter, Charlotte Bennett. It was Liam's only chance. He had to see her. He had to explain. If he could just get her alone, away from her father, he could remind her of the good times, the first 2 years, the love. She was carrying his child after all. Hormones were a powerful thing. She would be emotional. He could manipulate that. He spent his last $300 bribing a caterer to lend him a server's uniform. At 8:00 p.m. Liam was inside the Met, holding a tray of champagne flutes. He kept his head down, moving through the sea of diamonds and tuxedos. The Temple of Dendur was lit in soft purple and gold. It smelled of orchids and money. And then he saw her. Charlotte was standing at the top of the stairs. She wasn't the woman in the emerald-off-the-rack dress anymore. She wore a custom gown of midnight blue silk that draped over her baby bump, his baby bump, like a waterfall. She wore sapphires around her neck that were likely worth more than Preston Dynamics ever was. Her hair was styled in glamorous waves, her skin glowing. She looked regal, untouchable. She was laughing at something a senator was saying. She looked happy. Liam felt a surge of possessiveness. That was his wife. That was his child. He waited until the speeches began. Arthur Bennett took the stage, the crowd hushing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Arthur boomed, "for years I built a legacy of business, but a legacy means nothing without family. Tonight I am proud to step back and let the future take the lead. Please welcome my daughter, Charlotte Bennett." The applause was thunderous. Charlotte took the microphone. She spoke with grace and confidence, the confidence of a woman who finally knew her worth. As she finished her speech, the crowd began to mingle again. Liam saw his opening. Charlotte was moving toward a private VIP alcove flanked by 2 large bodyguards. Liam ditched his tray and pushed through the crowd. "Charlie," he shouted. The bodyguards tensed, but Charlotte turned. She saw him. For a second, the room went silent for Liam. He saw the recognition in her eyes. He expected anger. He expected tears. Instead, he saw nothing. No spark. No hate. Just indifference. "Let him through," Charlotte said to the guards. Liam stumbled forward, breathless. "Charlie, God, you look incredible." "Hello, Liam," she said. Her voice was cool, like water running over stones. "You're serving drinks. I had to see you," Liam pleaded, ignoring the insult. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I was scared. The stress of the company, it got to me. But I've lost everything, Charlie. I've paid for my sins." He looked pointedly at her stomach. "I want to be a father. That's my son, isn't it? Or daughter. You can't keep me from my child." Charlotte placed a protective hand over her bump. "You didn't want a child, Liam. You wanted a divorce. You wanted Sophia." "Sophia is nothing," Liam said quickly. "She's a shark. You're the only one who ever really loved me. We can fix this. I can sign a prenup. I don't care about the money. I just want my family back." Charlotte studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a sad, pitying smile. "You don't want your family, Liam. You want your safety net. You're drowning and you think I'm a life raft." She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "You said I didn't fit in your world. You were right. Because my world is about loyalty. It's about building things that last. You built a house of cards and you knocked it down yourself. I can change, Liam begged, reaching for her hand. She pulled back sharply. It's too late. And as for the baby, she looked him dead in the eye. My legal team has already filed for full custody based on your financial instability and character concerns. You aren't going to be a father, Liam. You're going to be a cautionary tale. You can't do that. Liam's voice rose, attracting attention. People were staring. I have rights. I am the father. Security, Charlotte said calmly. The two bodyguards grabbed Liam by the arms. No, Charlie. Please. Liam struggled as they dragged him backward. I love you. I still love you. I know, Charlotte said softly, turning her back on him to face the flashing cameras of the press. But I don't love you anymore. As Liam was hauled out of the gala, kicking and screaming in a waiter's uniform, he saw one last face in the crowd. It was Sophia Kincaid. She was standing near the bar holding a martini. She watched him get dragged away, met his eyes for a split second, and then turned away to laugh at a joke made by a handsome young hedge fund manager. Liam was thrown out the back exit into the alleyway. He landed in a puddle of dirty water, the heavy metal door slamming shut behind him with a final echoing clang. He sat there in the dark, the sound of the party muffled by the brick walls, and finally, for the first time in 5 years, Liam Preston cried. 5 years? In the grand scheme of the universe, 5 years is a blink of an eye. But in the life of a human being, it is enough time for empires to rise, for cities to change their skylines, and for a heart to break, heal, and learn to beat to a completely different rhythm. For Charlotte Bennett, the last 5 years had not just been a passage of time. They had been a metamorphosis. The woman who had once sat trembling at a table in Levoix, clutching a glass of water and begging for her husband's attention, no longer existed. That version of Charlotte had been incinerated in the fire of Liam's betrayal, and from the ashes, something far stronger had emerged. It was a crisp, brilliant Tuesday morning in late October. Central Park was a masterpiece of autumn, the trees ablaze in riotous shades of burnt orange, crimson, and gold. The air was sharp and cold, the kind that woke you up and made you feel glad to be alive. Charlotte walked along the winding path near the conservatory water, her boots clicking rhythmically against the pavement. She wore a camel-colored cashmere coat that cost more than her old car, wrapped tightly around her frame against the chill. But it wasn't the clothes that made heads turn as she passed. It was the way she carried herself. She walked with the easy, unforced confidence of a woman who had faced her worst nightmare and survived. She wasn't just the heiress to the Bennett fortune anymore. She was the CEO of Bennett Venture, a multi-billion-dollar philanthropic fund. She spent her days funding clean water initiatives in sub-Saharan Africa and scholarships for inner-city kids in Chicago. She had taken the power her father had given her and used it to heal the world, perhaps as a way to heal herself. "Mummy, look. The boats are out." The shout broke her train of thought. Running ahead of her, chasing a stray pigeon with the boundless energy of youth, was Lucas. He was 4 years old, a whirlwind of laughter and curiosity, wrapped in a miniature navy duffel coat. He had messy brown hair that refused to stay combed and bright, inquisitive eyes that took in the world with absolute wonder. "I see them, Luke," Charlotte called out, a smile breaking across her face that reached her eyes. "Stay on the path, please. The leaves are slippery." She slowed her pace, watching him. Lucas was her anchor. He was the reason she got up in the morning. He was also, in moments that caught her off guard, a painful reminder. He had Liam's chin. He had Liam's way of tilting his head when he was trying to solve a puzzle. But the selfishness, the coldness, that was gone. Lucas was all warmth. Charlotte sat on a wrought iron bench, adjusting her scarf, allowing herself a moment to just breathe. She watched her son pick up a vibrant red maple leaf, inspecting it like it was a rare jewel. 50 yards away, the world looked very different. A man in a faded, stained grey uniform was stabbing at a discarded coffee cup with a pointed trash stick. He wore a neon yellow safety vest that hung loosely on his frame. On the left breast pocket, a cheap plastic name tag read simply, Lee. It was Liam Preston. The fall had not been a slide. It had been a cliff. After the gala, after the public humiliation, the legal system had finished what Arthur Bennett had started. The investigations into Preston dynamics had revealed deep systemic fraud. Liam hadn't gone to prison. His lawyers had managed to plead it down to probation and restitution, but the financial penalty had been absolute. Every dollar he had was seized. His reputation was radioactive. In the tech world, the name Liam Preston became shorthand for hubris and failure. He had applied for coding jobs, then IT management, then help desk support. No one would hire him. He was a liability. So the man who once dined on truffles and drank scotch older than his employees was now a seasonal sanitation worker for the City Parks Department. He lived in a basement studio in Queens that smelled of mildew, and he spent his days cleaning up after the people he used to be. Liam paused in his work, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of a dirty glove. His back ached. It always ached these days. He looked older than his 35 years. His hair was thinning and his face was etched with deep lines of bitterness and regret. He looked up and saw the boy. For a moment, Liam just stared. He didn't know who the child was, but something about the boy's energy, the way he threw his head back and laughed at the sky, struck a chord deep in Liam's chest. It was a phantom sensation, like a limb he had lost years ago trying to flex. Then his gaze drifted to the woman on the bench. The world seemed to stop spinning. The sounds of the city, the distant sirens, the chatter of tourists, the wind in the trees, faded into a dull roar. Charlie. It was her. It had to be. But she looked transcendent. She looked like a queen in exile watching over her kingdom. She was radiating a kind of peace that Liam had never seen in her when they were married. Liam gripped his trash stick until his knuckles turned white. His heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. Run, his mind screamed. Turn around. Walk away. You are forbidden to be here. But his feet were lead. He was paralyzed by the sight of the life he had thrown into the garbage, sitting there in the golden autumn light, perfect and unreachable. Lucas, spotting a squirrel near the water's edge, made a sudden dash. He was fast, too fast for his little legs. The toe of his sneaker caught on an uneven paving stone. Whoa! The boy went down hard, his hands scraping against the rough asphalt. Ouch! Lucas cried out, the shock turning instantly into tears. He sat up, clutching his knee, his lower lip trembling. Instinct is a powerful thing. It overrides logic. It overrides shame. Before Liam could think, he had dropped his stick and was rushing forward. He was the closest adult. Hey, easy now. Liam's voice was raspy from disuse, but gentle. He knelt down beside the crying boy. Lucas looked up, tears streaming down his face. Liam saw his own eyes looking back at him. The recognition hit him like a physical blow to the gut. This is him. This is my son. It's okay, buddy, Liam whispered, his hands hovering, afraid to touch the boy, afraid to dirty his expensive little coat. It's just a scrape. You're a tough guy, right? Lucas sniffled, looking at the man in the neon vest. It hurts. I know. Liam said, his throat tight. But look, no blood. Just a bonk. Lucas. The voice was sharp, cutting through the air like a whip. Charlotte was there in an instant. She didn't run, but she moved with a terrifying speed. She swooped down, placing herself between Liam and the boy, pulling Lucas into her arms and standing up in one fluid motion. She looked at the sanitation worker, her eyes flashing with a mother's protective fire. I told you to stay on the path. She stopped. The wind rustled the dry leaves around them, a dry, skeletal sound. Charlotte stared. She took in the neon vest, the dirt on his face, the receding hairline, the name tag that said Lee. Liam slowly stood up. He felt small. He felt like he was made of glass, and she was holding a hammer. He wanted to speak, to say something profound, to apologize, to beg. Charlie, it's me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But the words died in his throat. What right did he have? Charlotte's expression shifted. The anger vanished, replaced by something far worse. It wasn't hate. Hate implies passion. Hate implies that the person still matters to you. Charlotte looked at him with pity. She looked at him the way one looks at a building that has collapsed, a tragic mess that is no longer anyone's home. Are you okay? Charlotte asked, but her eyes were on Lucas, inspecting his knee with gentle fingers. I'm okay, Mommy. Lucas sniffled, wiping his nose on his sleeve. He pointed a small finger at Liam. The man helped me. Lucas looked at Liam. Thank you, mister. Mister. The word echoed in Liam's head. Not Dad. Not Father. Just Mister. A stranger. A nobody. Liam felt hot tears prick the corners of his eyes. He forced a broken, crooked smile. You're welcome. Charlotte stood up, hoisting Lucas onto her hip. She adjusted his coat, brushing a speck of dust from his shoulder. She reached into her purse. For one horrifying second, Liam thought she was going to hand him a $5 bill. The shame of it burned him hotter than fire. Please, he prayed silently. Don't tip me. Don't pay me for touching my own son. She didn't. She pulled out a tissue and wiped the last tear from Lucas's cheek. Then she looked at Liam one last time. Her gaze was cool, detached, and final. There was no spark of the old love. There was no victory lap. There was just the acknowledgement of a stranger who had done a small kindness. Come on, Lucas, she said, her voice steady and calm. Daddy is waiting for us at the boathouse. He promised you ice cream. Liam felt the blood drain from his face. The world tilted. Daddy? Lucas's face lit up, the pain in his knee instantly forgotten. Is Michael there? Yes. Charlotte smiled, and it was the most beautiful, genuine smile Liam had ever seen, and it wasn't for him. Michael is waiting, and he brought the puppy. Yay, Daddy, Lucas cheered. Charlotte turned. She didn't say goodbye to Liam. She didn't nod. She simply turned her back on him, wrapping her arms around her son, and walked away. Liam stood frozen. He couldn't move. He watched them walk down the path toward the Loeb boathouse. In the distance, leaning against the railing, was a man. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a kind face. He wore a camel coat that matched Charlotte's. When he saw them, he didn't check his phone. He didn't look annoyed. He lit up. Liam watched as the man Michael jogged forward to meet them. He watched as Lucas wiggled out of Charlotte's arms and ran to him screaming, "Daddy!" He watched Michael scoop the boy up, spinning him around in the air, burying his face in Lucas's neck to make him laugh. He watched Charlotte lean in, and Michael kissed her softly, reverently on the forehead. It was a perfect picture. It was the tableau of a happy life. It was the exact future Liam had held in his hands 5 years ago. The future he had traded for a corner office and a woman who didn't love him. He had wanted a legacy. He had wanted to leave a mark on the world. Standing there in the cold, surrounded by the trash of strangers, Liam realized his legacy was walking away from him. He was a ghost in his own life story. A sudden gust of wind blew a crumpled, greasy paper bag against Liam's leg. He looked down at it. He looked back at the happy family, now just small figures in the distance, disappearing into the golden light of the park. "Hey, Lee!" The shout came from a supervisor driving a green golf cart nearby. "Quit staring at the rich people. We got 3 more zones to clear before lunch. Move it." Liam flinched. He looked at his supervisor, then down at the trash stick in his hand. He took a deep breath, inhaling the smell of damp earth and exhaust fumes. "Yeah," Liam whispered to no one. "Coming." He spiked the greasy bag with his stick and dropped it into his sack. He turned his collar up against the wind, lowered his head, and continued to walk, spearing the garbage left behind by the people who mattered, fading into the grey background of the city that never sleeps. And that is the tragic yet satisfying end of Liam Preston. He spent his life chasing a better future, obsessing over status and optics, only to realize too late that he had already won the lottery the day he married Charlotte. He traded a diamond for a piece of glass because the glass sparkled a little brighter under the lights. In the end, Liam got exactly what he wanted, a life where he didn't have to deal with a boring family. But the price was watching strangers live the life that was meant to be his. It's a brutal lesson in karma. Be careful who you step on to get to the top, because they might be the ones holding the ladder. If this story gave you chills, or if you think Liam got exactly what he deserved, hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you think Charlotte should have let Liam say goodbye to his son? Or did she do the right thing by walking away? Type Team Charlotte or Team Forgiveness below. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. We drop new drama every week. Thanks for watching, and remember, true wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in who waits for you at home.